When I was about 16, I was out shopping and these two men were threatening to pour gasoline on me and light me on fire. I'm Jolene Dawson. I'm here because I've spent the last 10 years playing a character and it's ruining my life. It's just not who I am. I mean, for a long time I played this vapid, fast and loose kind of girl, and it's really kind of the opposite of who I am. It's a character that's a stereotype of what people expected a trans woman to be. At first it started out kind of tongue-in-cheek. I made the mistake of assuming that everyone would be able to see that, and unfortunately most people just see it as me. I had always wanted to work in entertainment, and I took the opportunities that were available to me. Being the blueprint for a lot of reality personalities in Australia today, I definitely was, in a lot of ways, the first of many to do the combination of things that I've done: reality TV, adult content, and tabloids. I had a huge sense of shame for even accepting the opportunities that I was given, because I was always the butt of the joke. And I knew for a lot of people, seeing that would be their first interaction with a trans person. And I always kind of resented myself for publicizing a stereotype of what a trans woman is. And I regret that a lot. Most people's first introduction to me would have been as the transgender Bratz doll, which is something that I had said and was taken out of context. It plays into an archaic idea that trans women are wanting to play a superficial idea of a woman. Now more than ever, people are starting to see that, but I wish I had never contributed to that narrative.
Did you perpetuate that story?
I played into it. I thought at the time, if I were to say that those things were untrue about me, that my working opportunities would lessen. I was a coke addict, and I wasn't. I was taking about 10 pills a day, most of them antipsychotics, and the problem with taking antipsychotics when you're not psychotic is that you become psychotic. I not only was playing a character, but I also was out of touch with reality. And when somebody's using drugs of any kind to that extent, it's very obvious. And the most logical explanation was that it was cocaine. And that made it harder for me to realize that I had a problem, because everybody assumed I was doing something that I wasn't, so I just thought there was no problem with what I was doing. After that, I appeared on Botched. To me, I entered that as if it were an acting role. I knew the character, what the audience was wanting from me, and the day that I landed in LA to film it, I received an email from someone saying that they were going to come to my apartment and slit my throat from ear to ear. I was doing that show with my best friend, and I just thought, that's all well and good that I'm willing to do all this, but she's gonna be on this show with me. I could be putting her in as much danger as I'm putting myself. And I just felt so selfish, but we were already there, and we had a show to film.
What was the episode on Botched about?
I was saying that I wanted breast implants on the top of my head. It created a lot of distance when that aired. I guess because now I was in people's living rooms with them on TV. So to them, it felt very intimate, and like they truly were seeing who I was. And who that person was not someone that I think anyone would want to know. I just felt more alienated than I had ever felt, and it was my own doing. I had no one else to blame. I think that the thing following that would have been the most memorable, and I think is what people remember me most for, is a video that I made crying about not being on Big Brother. And I filmed that high on prescription pills, afraid of where my career was going, afraid of how I had let myself be seen by the public, resenting the fact that I was allowing myself to create adult content, and it's so far from who I am today.
Building this character out, was that a way of protecting yourself?
Yeah, I already knew how people saw me without knowing me, the kind of assumptions that they would make, because I had always worn a lot of makeup, and really it was just based on that. I think it was a time where there weren't a lot of men wearing makeup. It was particularly odd in my area to see a teenage boy wearing makeup. So people just took me at face value, and I took that and I kind of ran with it. In doing that at such a young age, about 15, 16, the attention that I was getting online was from a demographic of a lot older men. Looking back, I definitely, it was an attempt to groom me, and it took me a really long time to realize. And the only reason that I realized is because one day I woke up, and this would have been maybe 2 years ago, and I saw a news article that one of the men that I do remember from that time had been arrested for being involved in a pretty serious pedophile ring, and realizing that those people had every intention of doing to me what they did to so many other teenagers and children. And that was really tough. It created like a sense of paranoia and fear that got so out of hand. I took a step back and had a look at this character that I had been playing, and thought, if this is the kind of people that it's attracting, I would rather be myself online and be criticized for who I am than be appealing to that kind of person. Having this audience of, at the time, what I thought was just men that were sexually attracted to me, and not that they were like inherently perverts, I knew that was the audience that I had, and I began making YouTube videos talking about my sex life in a kind of embellished and lavish way. And I reached a point in my life where all I had was my money, and I couldn't make enough of it. The only way I could make more money was to make adult content, which I knew I already had an audience for. I think I really portrayed it as though it was something that I wanted to do, as though it was something that I was proud of, but it was really shameful, and it was never something that I wanted to do. For a long time, I was using sex as a form of self-harm, and I'm not entirely sure why. After so many years of every interaction I had being based on how attractive I was to men, it became very easy to see myself as only good for sex. It could be a path of redemption to disappear. It would be scary for me. I'm aware that being trans has been made easier for me by having people know who I am. There is a sense of safety in being able to go to places and have people recognize me. It makes me less vulnerable to calculated assault. There's been a lot of times where I felt threatened. When I was about 16, out shopping, and these two men were threatening to pour gasoline on me and light me on fire. But more recently, I was raped, and two people watched it happen. And when it was over, I got up and I was walking away. And I couldn't tell up from down. was covered in my own vomit. I was crying, and these two people had seen the whole thing happen. And they stopped me, and they said, "Are you Jolene Dawson?" And I just was like, wow. These people watched maybe one of the worst things to happen to me. And instead of offering salvation or any kind of help, they're just wanting to be able to tell people that they met me. When it was happening, the only things that I was thinking was, I just want to be able to hide this so nobody else has to be hurt by what's happening to me. I thought, if I'm compliant, I'll survive, and I don't want my family to get that call the next morning saying that my body had been found. I don't want some innocent person to live a life filled with trauma from finding my body. And as long as I can hide it, nobody else has to suffer. So it was probably months before I told my family, and that was tough. I think I just want to be able to leave it all behind. I have no expectation for people to believe I'm not that person, but it would feel like an injustice to myself to not at least share a portion of the truth. It's not a character that I need anymore. I've spent a lot of time in therapy, and I think I'm at a place now where I'm comfortable accepting criticisms that are based on who I actually am. I think I have sound enough mind these days to be able to rationalize what people think of me, whether it's good or bad. My side would just be that anything anyone has ever seen of me has been designed as a form of self-defense. I don't expect a second chance from anyone. I can't expect anyone to even believe what I'm saying now, when everything anyone knows about me has been built on lies. It would be very self-entitled to expect anyone to give me a second chance, and I don't think I'm looking for that. But I do think it would be remiss to continue playing a character that's harmful to myself, harmful to the people that I represent, but it would also be remiss to just leave it at that and let people believe that I and people like me are what they've seen. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think, if not for myself, just for other people that are probably playing characters online and don't realize how out of hand it can get. What you want now could be worth waiting for if it means you don't have to be dishonest.